A White House spokesman said today that the Trump administration was not surprised by the outcome of yesterday's presidential election in Russia, which renewed Vladimir Putin's rule for 6 more years. That spokesman said no congratulatory phone call has been scheduled between Putin and President Trump. As John Yang reports, the Russian leader enjoys enormous support at home, based in part on his confrontations abroad with the West.
In a surprise to no one, Vladimir Putin claimed a landslide victory Sunday night at a rally just outside the Kremlin walls.
We will think about the future of our great motherland, about the future of our children, and by doing so, we are surely destined for success, yes?
With nearly 77% of the vote, the 65-year-old Putin's re-election to a 4th term makes the former KGB officer Russia's longest-serving leader since dictator Joseph Stalin. Putin, who said that political opposition threatens to destabilize Russia, called for national unity.
We need to make a breakthrough. While we do this, different political powers should not be run by some group interests, not by clan interests, but national interests.
Many Russians celebrated Putin's win, 13 points higher than his 2012 victory.
People confirm that they trust the president and his policies.
Russian election authorities are investigating a variety of reported violations, including employers pressuring workers to vote and, as seen in this security camera footage, widespread ballot stuffing in at least 5 districts. But even Russians who did not support Putin said that his victory was never in doubt.
There was no one else to vote for. I think it was all predictable.
International election observers agreed.
A choice without a real competition, as we have seen in this election, unfortunately is not a real choice.
Putin's main challenger, opposition leader Alexei Navalny, was barred from running because of what he says are politically motivated corruption charges. Navalny, who called for a national boycott, applauded those Russians who stayed home from the polls.
For the first time, we could unite a large number of people who, with full consciousness, decided not to take part in this disgusting game.
Today, opposition groups rallied in solidarity.
I wouldn't call it an election at all, or it's a particular election where it's designed not to have a choice.
Arkady Ostrovsky, Russia editor for The Economist, says Navalny was excluded to give Putin the landslide victory he wanted.
The process was set up in a way to exclude any competition, and so that Vladimir Putin could establish himself as a sort of a national, unchallenged national leader with no alternatives. All other candidates, it was, in other words, it was a performance. The people who turned up at the polling stations also know that this is a performance.
Ostrovsky says Putin's broad popularity stems largely from his confrontation with the West. That includes ongoing Russian military intervention in Ukraine and in Syria, where it's helping Syrian President Bashar al-Assad prosecute a brutal civil war.
If anything, we're going to see some escalation. Because the system depends on this escalation. The system, in a way, his legitimacy, his popularity depends on this image of Russia being a besieged fortress under attack.
Meantime, Britain, France, Germany, and the United States are blaming Russia for a chemical weapons attack on a former double agent in Britain. Yesterday, Putin called the accusations nonsense. And last week, the Trump administration slapped new sanctions on Russian individuals and entities for alleged Russian election meddling in 2016 and launching cyber attacks against American energy grids and infrastructure. Ostrovsky says Putin is undeterred.
He needs to create conflicts to have this backlash from the Western powers, which then in turn allow him to justify himself as the defender of Russian national interests.
Putin sought to assure Russians and international watchers that he's more statesman than instigator.
We plan to build relations with all the countries in the world in a way that is constructive. We will aim for and, of course, encourage our partners towards constructive dialogue.
Russia's current constitution bars Putin from seeking a 3rd consecutive term in 2024. But asked if he planned to change the constitution, Putin said he was considering it. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.